Good morning and welcome to the new week, everybody. Today, it is Monday, July 31st, the final day of the month. Welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by Because Bitcoin. I'm Snorlax, also known as Tommy, and I am joined, as always, by my phenomenal group of associates, Tucker, Max, and Dr. Outlook. We are bringing you guys some charts. We're bringing you guys some memes. We're going to bring you guys coverage of the news and everything that we're seeing in financial markets right now, right? Coming out of FOMC last week. I think we have CPI next week, but I could be wrong. We do have some very big earnings happening in equity markets this week. In Amazon, Coinbase, we have Apple. Two of those three tickers are assets that can potentially really move these stock indexes in either direction. So, definitely expecting some fireworks, as well as the fact that we are now turning over a new leaf into August. Not quite yet, but tomorrow. And I won't harp on it too much, but we do have quite a bit of importance on these upcoming dates as far as lunar cycles and moons are, as far as it pertains to those things. And if you don't believe in that, that's fine. I do personally. I do believe in their ability to influence financial markets. So I'm expecting some volatility, guys. I mean, Bitcoin is, I think, sitting at a more interesting spot than equities right now, right? In the sense that equities have a much more clearly defined trend, whereas Bitcoin is, kind of indecisive. Is this the deviation, maybe the painting of the manipulation side of a PO3 setup targeting 33, 34K from here? Or is it a trap for bulls, perhaps, just as well? And, we have now forced a lot of people to buy under support, been unable to breach said support, and we could have a fairly decent puke. Given that, one of the things that I've talked about repeatedly on this show is Bitcoin's historical volatility right now is in the gutter. It's absolutely in the gutter. And it looks like it's showing no signs of really, over a higher time frame, reversing that trend. I mean, I think it's volatility within Bitcoin is going to continue to decline over time. But in the short term, there's definitely an opportunity for some mean reversion there, right? Maybe even just reverting back to the historical mean could cause quite a disturbance within this market. And, direction TBD, right? I have some of my smartest friends that are, in the bull camp this week, and some of my smartest friends that are in the bear camp this week. But ultimately, it's all just, pointless rhetoric until Bitcoin kind of decides what it wants to do. But fingers crossed, guys, fingers crossed, it's going to happen this week. Tucker, what are you looking at with the charts there? I see that we have broken down from value. We're still pretty much consolidating within the value range, of our breakdown. I have to imagine that, I already do know that the open interest within this range is quite strong. So how are you currently viewing this range, guys? I know that, we have some mixed opinions on the panel as far as like the direction that Bitcoin could take into the end of the year. But I do think, maybe we're all on the same page. Maybe we're not. What are you guys thinking about, the look of Bitcoin right now?
You want me to start, Max, or you want me to jump in there?
I thought he asked Tucker. I was going to wait for Tucker to go, and then I want to talk about moon cycles. So maybe Tucker, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, my bias is lower. My bias remains lower, like we talked about last week. Like, I think the whole "it's a trap" thing could materialize through something like this, and that's your trap right there. That might be a little low, actually, but regardless, I think that's where we get the trap. I mean, if you just look at this and you take off all the lines and we're just like slow bleeding down. Like, we had a nice range, right? Like, we had a nice range. It was real pretty, and we broke, and now we're just hanging out and like
what fractal?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't stab.
What fractal did you have there that I just kind of saw appear on the screen for a split second? Or was I just
have a fractal? I don't think I have one on here.
might have just been seeing things.
I know I've played around with some before, though. Hang on.
My God, that is ugly, PA. This is the most untradeable price action I've ever seen on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that.
Were you not excited?
That was the lower time frame. So,
see, but I really like that. I don't know if I see it going quite that deep. It could.
Yeah,
but
that's the fractal.
Given the historically low volatility that we're experiencing right here and the immense amount of open interest buildup in this little chop range, you have to think that whoever pukes is going to drag us either up or down a quick 1,000 points on Bitcoin. I really do like that 28K level. I think that if you want higher, you need the fuel from a bigger bear trap than the one that, if this is a trap, has currently been set. That's been my base case for a long time now. And actually, Tucker, yeah, I would say we're like right there, the lower one. You know, the lower one, I had to guess where we are. I think we're going to see a peak like that.
Yeah.
And then we'll move higher from there potentially. Or at least then I'm more open to looking for longs or leverage longs at that point. Right here, I don't really feel pressured to enter any leverage longs. I don't think that feels right to me, at least at this point. Tommy also brought up the moon cycles, which again, some people don't believe in it. Some people do. Some say it's astrology for men. You know, it seems to work out pretty darn well. And we do have a full moon tomorrow. So,
oh man,
interpret it how you will. You know, maybe it's people pretending that they're deities and, you know, using the moon as a catalyst to try to drive price and manipulate, you know, their positions, or maybe it's all interconnected in a way that we can't understand. But again, this indicator it's definitely worked more than it hasn't. And at least, you know, whether you want to make the argument it's predetermined which direction a move will go or not, I don't really care. For me, it's more about there tends to be more volatility as we approach and as we're in the midst of a full moon rather than when we're not. So for whatever reason, you know, again, there's a lot of different reasons we can attach to it, but you know, just something to take note of as we are buoying here right below our previous range low, and we had a severe break of value with a lot of open interest buildup and historically low volatility on Bitcoin. I can't help but think that something's brewing.
Did you just say astrology for men?
I did, yeah.
That somebody actually told you that? Or did you just make that up?
I think someone told me that.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Oh, what?
I mean, I guess technically it is astrology, right? It's just like the man's version of astrology, you know.
But for men, that's where
you know, we don't use it to determine like how our day is going to go, like good or bad, or you know, what side of the bed we woke up on. We use it to try to gamble.
That's why I found it funny, because
I know some people that do that, Max. Like they take that seriously, and they're people who I would not have thought would be the type of people who would take that seriously.
No,
call them out right now, Tommy.
No,
first name, last name, address.
He's really great at me, but no, I was just that was interesting. That was interesting. I haven't heard of that one before. I actually made me chuckle a little bit when you said that. Yeah, I mean this is kind of what we talked about though, Max. Like I've talked to all you guys about this. This is what I wanted to see if we were going to catch a rejection. Is I wanted to see a multi-week, you know, multi-day retest underneath resistance, and that's typically what you'll see if you're going to catch a rejection first, right? So I'm definitely more in the camp at this point, you know, with where price is to where, you know, we're going to see a breakdown from value range high here into, you know, what should be support if we continue to not be able to get above that resistance. And that resistance is very clear. It's very clear. You can see it right there, right at 25K. It's very clear.
You're saying lower now, Will?
I'm saying the longer we sit here, the more likely the lower.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Don't good to have Dr. Outlook, man. Dr. Outlook has been recruited to the bear camp in the short term.
But
Yeah.
this has been my thesis. This has been my thesis since the beginning. I was like, if we can't get above and find support, then we have to reject, right? So the market has to make a decisive decision here. If I'm wrong on the upside, and if people are down, then we'll see it. But the longer we sit here, the more I'm in the camp of down before up, right? The market needs to make a decision. I personally think this week. I think if we continue to range here this whole week, I'd be questionable of where the market will go, directionality wise, as opposed to being confident that it's going to go up.
We've definitely built up plenty of short interest. Like we should outline that pretty clearly. As much as we love to talk about how weak this looks and how there are bulls trapped above us, like there is plenty of short interest here as well that I think you have to be conscious of if you're trying to trade this asset. Like but when I look at that zoomed out structure, man, I keep bringing it back to the topping pattern that we had in February, like late February, man. It just looks the exact same, man. The exact same. The price action feels the same. Oh, yeah. It just, not quite the arrow, maybe a little before that, but.
You think there?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, the thing is for me is like I like to be the opposition at times, but I don't like to be the dumb person in the room, just trying to scream opposition just to scream it. So like if I can see price action, moving directionally the other direction, as far as like where we're sitting, I just have to admit the truth versus trying to hold my stance like a lot of people would.
And by the way, Will, you could be correct still. Like your thesis of like 34 to 37K, it probably comes, or it has a better chance of playing out if Tucker's fractal, begins to play out as well. Like I literally, my base case this entire time was, yes, 35K arguably should happen. It's a really hot technical level. I think it would satisfy a lot of like the TA junkies out there. We got a CME futures gap. We've got like so many different fibs, and it is such a hot level. The tank was on E. When we're sitting at 30K after multiple rejections of 31K, I'm like, there's just not enough fuel to take us there right now. Right now is the key thing to note. So, I mean, look, if you give me 28K, you give me 28K, I'm seriously looking at shoving some longs with size. That's your level where you should hold there, you should bounce there. Otherwise, you're going back down to 25K. So I think the people here were just a little, like people that I've seen leveraging long right here, I still feel like they're a little bit early to that next move. Like they know it's coming. It makes a lot of sense it's coming. It's more probable than not that it is coming, but they're just going to be 1,000 points early on it is all. But again, I could be wrong also.
I'm still in the camp of up, but I think if we continue to sit where we're sitting the rest of the week, then it becomes, where do we go? Where's the reality scenario here? Because the longer we sit below resistance, the less likely you're going to break through, right? You have to push through that resistance at a certain point, or you just run out of juice. And I think we're below resistance, not above it.
I do think if we can get back above like 29.7, 29.8, it's not going to stop in the mid 30s. If we squeeze, it's probably going to go back to a new high, given the shorts that we've built up.
There's a lot of shorts here. There's a lot of longs and there's a lot of shorts here. There's
a lot of shorts here, but there's a lot more longs higher. Okay, and a lot of them haven't puked quite yet. We did have some liquidations. I was looking at it this morning. So again, you're not wrong. All right, so there are a lot of shorts here. There's been a lot of longs though, Max. When we dropped from 30K down to just like 29, we had over 30 million in liquidations on that drop. Typically that will signal, again, historically, that will signal like the end of the, like in the near term of the capitulation. When we get over that like 20 to 30 million in liquidations. But But with that said, both sides have been getting screwed in this little range here. Earlier on, it was far more predatory for shorts that were over leveraged within this small range right here. Every move back up to 29.5 took out $5, $7, $8 million of liquidations right above us. So I think just because there were some liquidations, doesn't necessarily preclude this thing from dropping another 1,000, because there's still so many longs that are open from 30K that haven't puked yet. So yes, you are correct in saying there's a lot of people shorting here, but there's even more longs above that haven't puked yet, at least as far as I can see. But correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe we're looking at different things.
I think part of the problem is that it's just there's not that much participation in the market as a whole. When you look at it relative to other places. See my cat in the background. I'll get him in a second. But no, I mean, you're kind of seeing volume that would otherwise be indicative of froth, right? That loves to long altcoins on exchanges with leverage. It's all moving on chain. And so a lot of these pairs on futures are so illiquid that, I mean, it's literally taking 3 or 4 million in notional size, which is not, I mean, when you consider the size of the Bitcoin derivatives market, that's a very small position. Like that's all it takes to flip funding negative on Bybit anymore. So it's like, I feel as though we have a lot of longs and a lot of shorts, relatively speaking to historical open interest, probably not. And so, that's probably why we just haven't had that much volatility. There's just like not that much, we have taken out all of the apes with leverage in this year's ranges and last year's bear market, I guess.
So speaking of losing volatility, or not losing, losing momentum,
Ooh.
Tucker, let's take a look at Matic.
Yes. I was
Time
waiting.
to bully some Matic.
Oh, it's on. Yeah, I remember Snorlax's old bully list.
Let's get some stocks in this morning too, because we have one that starts with an E and ends with an F.
No.
Let's take a look at Matic, and then we can go over
yeah.
this.
Let's do a quick Matic analysis here. So, I mean, can you see it, guys? Can you see it? Okay, parallel channel, volume profile, lost to value area high, and then lost or bound channel. I mean, did not respect the point of control at all. Boom. I mean, what is that? I don't even know. It's not going to play out. Let's look at like the distance, 40% below the value area low. Like, what would that even be? Actually, I can see it.
It could.
Yeah, that would take us to old lows, right on the number, right on the head. So,
man, those targets seem kind of gluttonous to me personally, but if they come, they come.
You're right here. You are right here.
I kind of think of this time period, and I don't remember if we were talking about it on the show. I know I was talking with you about it, Max and Tucker, about like what if this is. I've always viewed this current regime as kind of what if this is 2021 repeated, but what if it's actually 2020 repeated, and we're coming out of DeFi summer right now, the equivalent of it, about to see the BART on Bitcoin from 10 to 7K. Before potentially a run up into the halving. I want to pose that scenario to you guys.
So our DeFi summer is on-chain summer.
Yeah.
And then we get the rinsing that we deserve before the halving, and then expansive price action. I'm open to it. I wouldn't mind that. I'm a bit skeptical that it happens. But yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely a valid scenario that should be entertained. Absolutely.
Summer.
Will, what do you think about that theory?
I mean, that's been my thesis the whole time. This is why I've been looking for the drop in Q4. Right? It's the rollback after the run up, which is atypical for Bitcoin before the halving.
Yeah, but we didn't get like an ABC, whatever. We just full BART. Yeah. Like we didn't get like the nice waves that we've been looking for, like 1, 2, 3 drives. Like we literally just
Well, every cycle's not going to be the same, right?
Right.
Every time your pattern's going to change to something different. But so your pattern can change, but your result will always remain the same, right? That's really the reality of it. And a lot of people think like patterns means that structure has to be the same. No, structure can change. But as far as price action into certain parts of the year, into certain cycles, so on and so forth, that will always remain the same. That's the pattern that remains the same. A lot of people get the two confused and don't understand the difference between kind of a symmetrical pattern versus a seasonality pattern or a yearly pattern or so on and so forth. Even stocks operate like that.
Where was the halving in 2020? Yeah, that was after the halving, May.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We're gonna get get crushed before the halving.
Yeah, this was the halving.
I do think the next like big flush before the halving though is probably like
if you look there, we dropped from July all the way into that though.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of debate here on this show and then also publicly on Twitter on which cycle is perhaps most comparable to where we're at right now. And I would also like to throw this into the mix. What if we finally get a recession in 2024 and 2024 is not nearly as bullish as most people think? And there's all this debate on, well, are we going to go, to 20K again, or is 25K concrete and that's going to be accumulation before blast off? What if we go back down and we range between 16 and 25 for a year while some of the economic headwinds that have been long awaited finally settle in and Bitcoin doesn't really do a ton until 2025 or latter half of 2024? I don't see many people. I mean, truthfully, to bring this narrative back to, by the way, and it's not right now, Max Payne is always prolonged down. Okay? Always. Don't tell me Max Payne is up. People will feel left out. They'll be sidelined. Max Payne is nothing. You're going to sit there and do nothing for so damn long. You're going to hate trading and investing. And can you imagine if we go back down to 20K or the teens or maybe even make a new low and we don't recover for 18 months and the halving doesn't do what it's done historically? That is always Max Payne. So I don't know. I just feel like there's still too much optimism about the crypto space. This hasn't felt like previous bear markets. Even looking at the chart, like, yes, we went down a bunch in 2022. People are still very excited about crypto. They're still eager to ape. There's still an appetite for gambling and leverage. Look back at, Ethereum last cycle, in the bear market. Yeah, Tucker, exactly, man. That would be Max Payne.
That would be terrible.
And truthfully, that'd be terrible for a startup crypto media company.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long run, that'd probably be one of the better things for the asset class rather than just like turning around and ignoring everything and going straight up. Can you go back to Ethereum quick, Tucker? Or not back to it. Can you go to Ethereum? I don't think we've looked at it today. Look at the last bear market in Ethereum. There was so much just apathy and disinterest in it. I mean, the fact that we went down to $80 like twice, we were stuck in this prolonged range after a parabola at a 1400 before that. I just think everybody's still so damn optimistic about their bags, truthfully. And that's kind of throwing a little monkey wrench at it for me.
Yeah, and I don't think we need to have necessarily the same level of sentiment capitulation because, obviously, like more people do know about crypto. More people have been through more cycles. More people have seen, more people understand that, like, when we do this, we're going to eventually do that. Like, more people kind of get it. But at the same time, you're right. Like, we do need to see some.
Sentiment is not bad here. Sentiment's actually very good here.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of it that's like, okay, people understand that when this happens, this is going to happen. And like more people, there is more adoption, quote unquote. But I agree that like sentiment does continue to need to capitulate.
I actually don't think sentiment is as good as you guys are portraying it within crypto, because I think a lot of people, there are pumps that are being like publicized, but I don't think that there are a lot of people catching them. And when people do catch them, you're seeing just how like brutal and aggressive the on-chain market has been in terms of like PvP. People will get a big win and they'll immediately jump back in trying to continue making multiples. And what, just finding from people that I talk to, I mean, there's a lot of churn going on. So like people will hit a big win and then just spend, then their P&L curves will basically just look like Bitcoin. It's straight up in a straight line in a day, and then basically chop and bleed for the next 3 or 4 months. So I think the conditions, even though there has been opportunities to make money, I don't know that I would like, sentiment has definitely been worse in crypto, but I feel like the sentiment is more indicative of a bottom than a top still, from what we're seeing. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling.
No, I'd agree with that for sure, Snorlax. So that's kind of my take too, is definitely more potential for a bottom than a top, but it doesn't mean that the bottom is in though either. The one thing that I want to point out too, and this is something I always hear this. Well, everybody knows about the cycles. Everybody knows they're coming. Yes, everybody does, but nobody knows when. Nobody knows the time frame, right? You just know that the halving's coming. When does the dump happen before the halving? Nobody knows. Nobody knows, right?
I argue we can figure it out.
We could, but I'm saying though, your average retailer cannot. There's no possibility of your average retailer doing that. And okay, maybe on a guess, right? But I'm not gonna.
If they watch our channel, they will know.
But the point that I'm trying to point out though is that that's the part that everybody misses, right? Yes, everything's on the right. The writing's on the wall. Everything's out there for you to know. You know the cycles, you know everything. But can you time it right? That's the point, right? And that's the part that a lot of people miss. They're like, well, if everybody knows, then it probably won't happen. It will happen. It just when, right?
So I want a yes or no from everybody here. Literally no explanation, no anything. When you're looking at this ETH USDT chart, does that look like a bottom formation to you? Going back to, last summer, does that look like a bottom to you guys?
I'm not gonna lie.
No,
man.
yes or no, yes or no.
No, it doesn't. No.
Not really. But it doesn't have to.
Well, of course not.
I think about how ugly the Ethereum bottom looked in summer of 2021. If you were to use the replay tool on Ethereum, even to rewind back towards the summer of 2022, just erase the last year of PA, where would you say that chart is going to bottom?
Yeah, but I mean, so you're talking about summer of 2022. So like on the lower time frames, it did look like a bottom. If you were to zoom into the 12-hour or the daily, it looked like a bottom to me. Short term, right? And then we rallied to 2K. That was great. But when we're looking at the weekly, of course, it doesn't look like a weekly time frame bottom to me.
Yeah, I see a scenario where Bitcoin could run really aggressively and Ethereum underperforms, Bitcoin corrects, and Ethereum essentially heads back into this range that it's trading in right now. I could see that scenario. Depends on a lot on what ETH Bitcoin does from here. It's kind of at like a pretty key level, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say that's the type of chart that would bottom, but it is crypto, man. It loves to do that. Will, I wanted to switch over to legacy markets here because we really haven't talked about them much today. And we do have a lot of really important earnings this week. Most notably, we have Amazon and Apple. We've also got Coinbase, which I know we were joking about before the show. That's obviously going to be a very important one for the crypto market. What's kind of your feel for equities heading into this week and, some of the plays that you might be looking at?
I mean, as far as equities go, man, like all your bigger, indices, ETFs, and all that stuff, like they're so far out there. I can't justify a buy on any of them. I can't justify a buy on SPY. I can't justify a buy on even DJI. I like everything across the board pretty much is pumped. I'd say the only thing that hasn't pumped is Russell. I could see a loose chase on Russell, right? And that's just basically the market trying to chase the next move, trying to front run it. And I could see that ending really badly on Russell, right? More or less, in the fact that I think that the market's expecting money to try and chase and look for the next pump. And I think that they could get front run really fast on trying to jump into something like that.
And real quick, before we continue on, guys, if you are here enjoying the stream on your Monday, if you could just take one quick moment and hit that thumbs up button for us. It does wonders for the stream and for the channel, and we are so appreciative if you could just take one brief moment, smash that thumbs up button for us. Thank you guys so much. Back to you, Will.
Yeah, no, I would say across the board, like nothing really looks like it wants to move. Palantir's been looking juicy for a while, just kind of still sitting in the same basic range. Rivian's been doing great, Lucid's just kind of there. And those are kind of your lower, I would say, lower market cap stocks. On your higher ends, you got Google kind of sitting where it sits. You got Amazon looking like it wants to do something. But again, I think Amazon could be another one of those, right? Amazon could be one of those ones where the market's trying to chase high beta and runs into Amazon only to get wrecked. So it's very difficult to gauge the market at this point of like up or down. It's more of like a mid position. I mean, you could take positions on it. It just depends on your conviction on the play. The only thing I would be looking to get into indices on right now is something that I'm looking to like long-term position into, right? I don't think taking long-term positions into something with a 5-10 year horizon is a bad thing right now. I think in those scenarios, you're looking great. But like if you're looking to flip these things in 6 months to a year or get your 401k out next year, that may not work out too well for you, right? Especially if things turn back down again. So that's where I'm very questionable about the market's positioning right now. And more questionable on the factor that a lot of people got to understand too, the pain trade, it's kind of like what Max said. And we've had this discussion before, Max, where it's like the pain trade is not up or down. It's crap, right? And we could see these markets come up and then all next year just leak back down and never form a lower low, right? But just literally just drag all the way down into a retrace, right, for an entire year, and just not even make any price action movement at all on stocks. I don't know. What's your take on that?
That looks like TSM. That looks exactly like the TSM chart.
This does?
Yeah, it does.
Look like Max had something I wanted to say there.
It does. It's just this rocket distribution down.
Redistribution. I hope it's not redistribution.
Yeah.
But
Will, what really throws me off is hang on, let me see if I can. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. What really throws me off here, man, is total. Like if we want to cherry pick Bitcoin, we can. Bitcoin's well above this range high right now, but total is literally just in this range. So when we talk about doing nothing, when we talk about general disinterest from the market, that could imply in crypto a 50, 60, 70% range high to range low. And that's the picture that total is painting for me right now. So what I could see happening potentially, if we want to make the case that Bitcoin really just kind of ranges and does nothing, is that we could see the long anticipated Bitcoin dominance rally to 60%. Bitcoin chops above 25K for the next year, doesn't do anything, and alts bleed incessantly, and we see total drop down probably sub 1 trillion again. That would be that scenario, in my opinion. And it doesn't mean Bitcoin has to go anywhere near a new low, but it could just mean nothing for Bitcoin while alts just die.
I wanted to ask you about this, though, because I'm actually writing about this right now in the premium article that I'm going to be submitting today. Is how can we really gauge the health of the altcoin market based on alts that nobody's really trading? I know that kind of sounds like it answers the question, but like with the with the question itself. But most of the traders that I know that are trading altcoins are doing so on chain. So I don't know that if these altcoins were to just go lower, I don't know that that liquidity has still found a home in the meantime. Like it's not just like a value loss to the space, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I think the on-chain market has really kind of like wrinkled how I view Total 2 and Total 3, because I don't know if a lot of the altcoins that make up those indexes will ever be bid again.
Yeah, I can understand that point. I can definitely understand that point. I mean, I'd have to know which ones you're specifically talking about, because a lot of those you can trade on chain as well. They're just like much larger market caps. I think I would view it in a similar light to people just renting the rally and preferring to just chase micro caps because they're easier to pump, knowing that there's simply a disinterest in holding like mega cap altcoin names in this environment. So I think the lack of signal might be the signal in a sort of convoluted way. Like the fact that nobody's trading them it's kind of showing you the hand.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point too. There's clearly complete apathy towards, a majority of these altcoins, and I can't say I blame people, especially because you can buy things on chain for, part of the reason the multiples are so insane that people kind of forget the projects that are on exchanges launch at insane markups because they already have the venture capital raise completed. They've got like the fully diluted valuations, whereas these on-chain tokens just seem to, they launch and they don't have any backing, so they're able to get like that those early multiples that retail is usually cut out of with crypto. But that's just a little anecdotal point. I do think, equities are maybe headed towards a point where they're like waiting for maybe that one catalyst to kind of suck some liquidity out of the market in a bad way. And I don't know if crypto maybe had that over the weekend with Bald and Base Chain. I don't even know if that ticker's on TradingView, but if you're watching this show, you're probably aware of what happened over the last like 24, 36 hours with that ticker. It went from 0 to almost 100 million in market cap within a day. People thought person who bridged to, Base Chain and deployed the liquidity was a member of Coinbase. Turns out it was just some random guy that you just gave your money to. Congratulations. And now
Did he rug it? Was that confirmed?
He
rugged it? Okay.
Yeah. There's no liquidity in the pool anymore. So, it does kind of feel like one of those moments where liquidity gets sucked out of the market in a bad way, because that is value loss, right? Like everybody who didn't sell just had everything they had.
It's kind of weird how these narratives get around the space. Like this person worked at Coinbase, or that worked there, or this person worked with Little John or whatever. And it's like it just like goes and then it goes viral, and then people just jump on. Right. But that shows you where the market is, right? Yeah. When you can rug $1 million, when you can rug, $500,000, that's where the market is right now. And the market is still, I think, ideally, by the way these rugs have just been going on and on and on, still very liquid. If it wasn't liquid, these scams would not be going on because they know it would be a waste of their time and effort, right? These scams take time. These scams still cost the person money to create the scam, right? You got to pay for the echo chamber boost. You got to pay to set up the token. You got to. There's a lot that you have to do on the front face to be able to set up these scams. A lot of people think people just scam and they do it for free. No, there is cost to scams. It's just,
Look at Will giving all the credit to the scammers, man. They put in hard work.
I'm just saying,
Don't
man.
discredit them.
Look, I'm making the factor that they would not put in the effort if they didn't think they could rug the market, right? Because they know it would cost them. That's the point I'm trying to say. If the market's illiquid, like every macro analyst is saying it is, then these scammers would not be present right now trying to scam.
It's a huge.
You see what I'm saying?
It's a huge OPSEC risk to scam at the end of the day, man. If you're an American, like, it's over for you if you scam. You have to. That has to be your exit scam. If that's what you're actually planning to do, you need to be able to like leave without a trace. But I mean, it's so dumb. This person did this though on a chain that I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to KYC on to use. So, and even funnier is wait, no, I'm thinking of a different hack. Never mind. Sorry, there was a Curve exploit yesterday. I totally forgot to even mention.
That's really like going on, I think. Like,
It's ongoing actually. Basically, for those who are not familiar, it basically stems from the fact that the Curve founder took out an uncollateralized loan in order to buy 2 mega mansions in Australia. His liquidation price, I want to say, is about 20-30 cents. And on chain, Curve did in fact trade all the way down to 9 or 10 cents. So, on chain, he would have been liquidated, but Chainlink got the price oracle from exchanges and actually prevented his liquidation, which, it probably would have killed DeFi. Let's be honest. It would have been an absolute disaster if he had gotten liquidated. I mean, Curve is
that like almost kind of falling on your own sword? Like, I almost view what he's doing like the people that issue an NFT as collateral for a loan and then just have no intention to repay it back just so they get liquidated. It's like he literally did that, but with mansions,
That is so messed up that he would do that at this point in the market. At this point in the market, like, you're gonna take those kind of risks. Like that's insane to me. Like, if I were an investor in Curve, man, I would second think that. I'm just saying.
If you're still holding Curve in 2023, though, that's kind of an issue in itself. Yeah, but I agree with you, Will.
Yeah, well, okay. If you were still a holder, exactly like you said, and you thought that it had a future, I would ixnay that whole thought process at this point. This dude buy a multi-million. Come on, man.
The most bearish thing about the Ethereum ecosystem is that all the builders have already made it. Like, that's definitely the most bearish thing.
Yeah.
As far as like identifying the best opportunities for next cycle, they're all post wealth, man. They have no incentive to really like build these super strong ecosystems and foundations. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Tucker, you got to do November, man. It's only fair.
No, see, this is Tommy's. This is Tommy's.
It's only fair. That was the top.
I was trying to figure out his thinking the other day. I was texting him about it.
You texted Tommy, I'm trying to figure out your thinking.
Yeah, basically.
You can't go into that mind, man. There's too much going on in there. It's just a bunch of digits and numbers. It's trigonometry.
Like the Matrix, like.
You can't go in there, man. You don't want to go in there. There's too much going on.
Trigonometry, man. That's a subject I haven't heard about in a while.
Oh, man. Let's not even bring the name up.
Your humility is inspiring, Tommy.
Too much of that, man. Too much, man.
After cycle peak to bottom, time-wise, it's been the longest cycle, right? It hasn't drawn down as much as
from the not top, though.
From the not top, sure. From the not top. 3 months out to peak. Okay, look at the green line. That's where we are. Either we pull a 20 whatever 12 and rip. We just chop. Like, COVID would have already happened, right? So like, this is just grind, chop sideways until 900 days after the peak, and then you rip. Like, this, I mean, I could get with the idea that the bottom's in, like, that's fine, whatever, but this,
you go to the actual top now.
Hang on. This doesn't imply that big of a drop, though, I don't think so. But yeah, okay, if we go to the real top,
which was the real top?
Wait, let's just do
the real top was in spring of 2021, man.
Okay.
It was, yeah, January, basically.
You must have a glitch on your trading view.
Okay, so
I will fight you on, man. That was definitely the real top.
Dude, we went 10% above the previous top.
But the volume,
momentum and strength and volume did not match the profile. It was all just opium.
Okay, so was the real bottom 17K and not 15.7?
Yes.
Yeah,
actually,
arguably. Yeah,
could
argue that.
Max is like, what is going on?
He's like, no, stop it.
The people who think that the FTX blow up was kind of fake because they didn't have any real Bitcoin to sell would probably argue the real bottom was at 17K. For Ethereum, the bottom was when Bitcoin traded 17K.
There's also grown adults that argue that people can basically become dogs if they want to. So
That's different. That's different.
Max,
No.
you've seen that South Park where Kyle's dad becomes a dolphin, right?
of course.
Of course. Okay. ROI after bottom. This is assuming what? That we've bottomed?
Yeah, so it's assuming that we've bottomed at 15.7K.
Oh, we've got market cycle 5 going on here, but okay, I see what's going
It's
on.
assuming the bottom is in.
All right, if we take the real peak, which is April, yeah, man. Okay, if we follow last cycle though, there's a big, that green line. There's a big. If we get rid of like, you know,
Yeah, I think we just need, even if the bottom is in, right? I think we just need more time spent in a range. We need more general disinterest in the space.
yeah. So either way, ROI after cycle bottom, we are tracking pretty closely to last cycle. So
Yeah, that's fine. Like I think
I mean that would not imply
even take out the COVID dump. Like let's just say there's not ever another black swan or like major economic collapse or something, and like we are about to go back to a bull market. Just give me more time here. Like I think again,
yeah.
there's just simply too much optimism about the
Are
space.
you asking
right now.
or are you talking about it?
I'm demanding.
I'm demanding. All right, so we're about 250 days in. We didn't really start ripping until about 650. That would imply 400 more days.
Boy,
not
Matic
gonna
looks really
beautiful.
good here, guys. Oh my
It's not gonna
gosh.
take that long. We're going to top sooner than we have in any other halving cycle. I'm
I
sorry.
want to hear why. Why though?
Well, I also will preface what I'm going to say by the fact that I don't think it's going to be a parabolic, like explosive growth top. As in, I think the top will probably be something like 80, 90K, and on Ethereum, probably like 7 to 8,000. Kind of, I mean, it's really more or less just based around the idea that I've been talking about with stocks, guys, that I think we're just going to do the same thing we did in the 60s and 80s, where we just ranged. And
Yeah.
crypto, why can't it paint a similar type of I know that people will hear this and think that that is probably like the most horrific sounding thing ever. And if you're an investor, I think you could argue that it probably is, right? If you're repeating 65 through 1980s like stock market price action, then Bitcoin can theoretically go to a new all-time high and then back to new lows. So
I don't know.
I would say this is probably the most bullish I've felt on crypto in a very long time. But I do recognize that it's probably locally at a top. But I kind of think I'll be honest. I think I'm going to be comfy holding spot until maybe next summer.
Yeah. I'm going to switch it back to, hang on. I'm going to switch it back to this. Okay. Not curve.
Yeah,
Okay.
Robert, when Apple integrates crypto onboarding through their Apple Wallet,
That's when you sell.
Yeah.
well, let's let them pump it 100% first and then sell. We'll
Yeah.
get the Binance exit pump equivalent.
Remember
of
Nike, Gucci, everybody coming in 2021, mark the top.
Yeah. So
I think just the conditions too for me, Tucker, like the low volatility that we're seeing. Historically speaking, Bitcoin's seen the highest levels of volatility spikes to the upside. And these low volatility conditions, like I said, they feel more like bottom type conditions than conditions you would see at the top, or even in distribution. Like to me, it kind of screams like we're going to be trading a lot higher from here a year from now. But I don't know.
It's
A year
screaming
from now,
something
sure.
slightly different at me.
like this is the one that matters, right? Because you increased from having to peak here, right? 357, 525. If you calculate it from the potentially real peak, right? You're 200 days less from having to peak. So, I mean, if you wanted to extrapolate that and say we're going to do 200 days less than 329 days, then obviously you're looking at a peak at
What would the date be? I'm curious because I was doing some massaging last night with some
Oh my
charts.
goodness.
Oh man, you don't want to see Snorlax's massaging.
August of next year would be the peak.
Oh man.
I don't know.
I think that's pretty unlikely, in my opinion.
It reminds me of when you guys sit there and you tell me, I'm just adjusting the fractal. I'm just adjusting it.
Tucker, let's do a little bit of voodoo here. All right, this is something that I did in a video on our YouTube. Throw on the 20-week and the 50-week SMA.
Okay, wait. 62% of 329. 206. There you go. October Q4 2024 is the peak. All right, wait, what?
20-week and 50-week simple moving average.
20-week. We'll just go with this one. 20 and 50.
Yep.
By the way, guys, the date that I had was actually May.
Peak in May.
Was in May.
Okay. All right, here we go.
I feel crazy saying it, and I feel crazy saying it, but
all right, Tucker. Draw a vertical line when the 20-week crossed the 50-week.
What, down?
After last. What's that?
There?
No, to the down.
Like when it crossed going down?
Yeah. So right there's the first one. Now go back to the previous cycle, right after the last top. Do it there as well. All right, take a measured move.
You want me to do this one?
Yeah, sure. Do that one too. That's fine. Take a measured move. Measure how many days from when the 20-week and the 50-week crossed until the next cycle peak.
Okay. From this to the next peak?
Yeah, and then do the one before that. The real peak. The real peak, not the fake peak. The actual peak.
All right.
And then do that one. Would you look at that?
Ooh.
But actually, line.
Let's
Did
look
you
at
get
that.
did you get the first one correct? I'm sorry, the 69K top correct?
Right?
Yeah, that looks pretty good. So, just saying, from when that voodoo happens, you can see how many days it takes till the next peak. So now from there, yep, there you go. August 2025.
It's a long time. It's a long time.
We got nothing but time, my friend.
you guys think equities have topped here? That's
No.
a fair question. If you do, then, or I should rather say, if you don't, then I don't think you should rule out any scenarios with Bitcoin upside.
I need to ask for more specifics in your questioning. Are you
Yeah.
talking about a local top or a global top?
I'm talking about a global top, because if we're talking about a local top, equities pull back maybe 300-400 points. Bitcoin obviously is going to feel that. It's not going to make new lows, but it'll feel that. What happens if equities melt up after that? Where does Bitcoin go? Does it just continue to underperform equities the entire time? I don't know.
Well, equities can grind higher, and Bitcoin can.
The hype for the spot ETF into the halving, man, I can see it now.
So I have to ask you then, Tommy, is this time different? The last handful of times that the yield curve has been this inverted,
Ooh.
After the uninversion happens, we typically see a really nasty multi-year recession.
I think we're going to have multiple recessions over the next decade.
You don't think we're going to have one big final capitulatory sell-off and then global bottom QEs?
Maybe the last one. Maybe the last one is like that. But if it plays out like the 60s through the 80s, we could have like 3 or 4 recessions in that time period.
And by the way, I agree with that. I've said that I think we're already like 3-4 years into a wasted decade.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. We just won't know until, we look back and go, oh, yeah, look at that.
I think that's a
Nothing
good way to
happened.
characterize it, honestly, because you're probably not going to see too much change in growth as far as like America goes from an industrial standpoint. And it's pretty unlikely, in my opinion, that there's any. I mean, I don't think that AI is going to create the value to be able to break us out from such a range right now. Maybe in the future, that's what breaks us out of, I'm not even just thinking about it like a ticker now. I'm just thinking like a sentimental range as a country. If you kind of look at it like that, that's basically what the 60s through the 80s chart personified was literally like almost a wasted decade in terms of like real growth.
Yeah, I mean, look, something that I have difficulties with as a trader, and I'm constantly working on, is it's positioning for. So if I have like a higher time frame bearish outlook, I find it difficult to position long in the short term. And that's something I have to constantly work on. Where like right now, I think that Bitcoin's probably not going to do a whole lot beyond what it's already done. But I could definitely see a really awesome long setup approaching at 28K. And there's a mental block for me where I have a difficult time positioning long aggressively with a higher time frame bearish outlook. But it could be months from now. It could be a year from now. I have no idea. So when we're talking about all these different scenarios that could potentially play out, I'm open to all of them, but it's going to be difficult for me to position, wholeheartedly with size unless I have high time frame and low time frame confluence, and that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you just have to position even if you're uncomfortable. So when I see all these economic headwinds that again have not settled into our economy yet, just because they haven't yet doesn't mean that they won't. I suppose they don't have to. Maybe we did truly get a soft landing and like recession is avoided. But it's difficult for me to ignore something like the yield curve being this inverted, and that broadening megaphone pattern that we've seen a half dozen times in the equity markets over the past 5-6 decades. As we're approaching all-time highs, it's difficult for me to just ignore all that and say, well, Fractal says up on Bitcoin. It's difficult for me to just put that aside, even though, Tommy, you could be, one of the scenarios you outlined, this could be like the prolonged accumulation before another expansion. You could be totally correct, but it's difficult for me with some of these like very clear risk off signals flashing, and they've been flashing forever. But it's difficult to position with that.
I agree with you, Max. It's for now. It's just a working theory. You guys know my current positioning isn't necessarily reflective of somebody who thinks that we're literally about to be in a full bull tomorrow. But I think when the turbulence from August and maybe September kind of settles down, we're going to have a much clearer picture about, I think, the possibility of that. And it will be scary to bid, I think, no matter what. But if we're holding up support levels with equities and Bitcoin is doing the same, probably to a much uglier degree, it's going to be one of those times I'm just going to have to sack up and bid,
Sometimes you just got to stack up and bid. Guys, we are at 18 likes right now. Our goal is always 20 likes. We got 22 people watching. If you're enjoying the content so far, if you could just take a brief moment and hit that thumbs up button for us, it does wonders for the algorithm and really helps us as a young channel. Thanks everybody for being here on Monday, July 31st, the last day of July. But yeah, please smash that thumbs up if you have not yet.
Let's look at Bitcoin dominance here before we start to wrap things up, because if we're talking
Okay,
about
wait, real quick though. Real quick. Look how similar this is. Look how similar this is. The moving averages, right? Right. We look like we're right before we lost the 20.
Yeah, the aggressive divergence between the 20 and the 50 there in a bear market rally
Yeah,
is very comparable.
This and look, I just did a little quick thing. Like from the candle, we lost the 20, assuming we're going to lose it this week or next week. We had basically 100 days until what I would call the bottom, because if COVID didn't happen, I think we would have just gotten this run up starting here. So I'm just going to say, that gives us November, basically. So I would expect, but look at the move. Like we lost it in like a 20% candle, and then we retested it, and then we set the low, right? So obviously we're probably, the volatility won't be as much. So I mean, we're probably going to do something.
Yeah, the volatility will be muted, I imagine. But see, that would be a great scenario too. Like imagine
that would be the low to bid.
I mean, we'd fill the CME gap at 20 or 21. We dead cat bounce back up to like upper 20s. And then maybe we feel some economic headwinds, or the stock market pulls back, and like we dip back into that like 20K region, or maybe sub 20K. And assuming no black swans or something like that, then I think you could call an end to your accumulation phase before the next bull market, which we could very well be in right now. Just like we could very well be 3 or 4 years into a wasted decade, we could be 50% done with our accumulation phase before the next bull market.
That would be
trader's market, man. It's a trader's market.
Tommy's going to be a billionaire, man. It's quant time, baby. Let's go.
Man, if we do melt up basically and until like mid 2024, then if I'm not a millionaire by then, I'll be pretty pissed at myself.
Yeah,
you will be. Will be.
People would think we'd lose the 20. Oh, we caught the 50. We're hanging on to the 50. Oh, we're going back up. We retested 20. See you later. It's over.
Can you throw on like the 200-week moving average? I want to see where that would potentially be, because that's historically been like concrete.
That's the 200. Yeah.
Or sorry, 200 week. That's 200 day, right?
I don't know. I'm on the
Is it locked today?
No,
that's correct. Yeah, sorry. I thought I saw it say on your indicator day.
Yeah. So it would be like, okay, oh no, we lost the 20 week, we lost the 200 week, we catch on the 50, we retest, higher low, higher macro low, right? Higher macro low, but people are probably thinking it's over, right?
Dude, imagine the bullish dive, or like, would that be?
We take the wick.
We'd have to go lower for it to be a RSI divergence. Never mind. Well, I guess maybe right there.
We take that wick, and then it's up only, and that would be October.
Sounds good to me.
So,
yeah, we could be 50% done with accumulation, guys. We could
just survive the next 2 or 3 months, I think, is the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean that would be the 2019 fractal. So, but yeah, what you said. Yeah. Whoa. Let's get rid of those. BTCD.
You know what that looks like in comparison to the 2019 price action on BTCD is it looks like we've put in the high, and now we're going to bleed until Bitcoin decides to chad.
Can you put up Bitcoin below the Bitcoin dominance chart, Tucker?
Yeah.
Am I making sense? Like where
yes,
we are?
Perfect sense. I just wanted to show a visual with the actual Bitcoin chart. You might have to put it in log there, Tucker.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we're just waiting on that.
Or we finally get the Bitcoin dominance spike because Bitcoin nukes.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is up more than these altcoins. That's the only thing. So when it does end up like putting in a -20, -25% day, have alts already front run it, or do they outperform it? I don't know.
I mean, the Bitcoin dominance chart straight up looks like a very clean range breakout. We're just coming back to retest the range high before further expansion.
I just
What
don't.
that means for US dollar prices, I don't know. It's a coin toss, right?
I was gonna say I just don't even know how like these altcoin holders would have more coins to sell.
Hey man, there's infinite coins to sell on
I know.
perps.
I know.
Infinite Matic to sell.
Always more Matic to sell, brother.
The size of the altcoin derivatives market is probably 100 times the spot market. Maybe not 100.
For altcoins, yeah.
30 to 50 times the size of it at least.
You take on chain out of the equation, 100%.
Yeah, there's always coins to sell, man. Always.
The only tokens catching some sort of like spot bid right now are basically Maker, and then I think like SNX to a lesser extent, because and Optimism, I guess, too. But
Is SNX built synthetics?
I know people are high on it because it's basically like a play with Optimism, but I'm not buying that thing.
Yeah.
I'd rather bet on like a new project than baggage.
Yeah, I remember when this thing came out. Back in here. Yeah, $30. This was one of my favorites last bull market.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. I remember I bought it about 6. I bought it about here, but I sold it at about here. Not here. I remember
bags everybody was talking about back then, man.
Yeah.
Good times.
What did Coinbase announce? Oh, they just added it. Vet and VThor.
Very bullish. That changes everything.
Down bad when 12% is considered skyrocketing in crypto.
Yeah, for a shitcoin.
So before we wrap up, speaking of shit coins, can you go over to the Matic chart there, Tucker, on the lower time frames?
Absolutely.
He smells blood.
Yeah, got sharks in the water, guys. Oof. Where are you going?
Volume profiles pulled up. I hate that you have to like reload them every time, but
Oh yeah. No,
yeah, that's very annoying.
I hate that, dude. It is unbelievable.
especially on lower time frames.
Oh yeah, because if you've got like a high time frame range above, you have to zoom out
Look,
so far. It's so
This
annoying.
is, we literally compounded here yesterday. Right about here.
Spin
Right.
the
Right there. Boom.
Boom.
Look
It's
at that.
funny because of all the coins we chose to bully, Matic actually doesn't even have that bad of like a token vesting schedule compared to the
No.
other ones. It probably would have been better to just short near, but Matic, I feel like I have to short on principle.
Yeah.
What's the principle of it?
I hate Polygon.
That's called
That's
fundamentals right there.
Fundamental
It's
analysis.
called fundamental research.
You are
I
literally
fundamentally hate it, so I'm shorting it.
you are literally right here.
I'll buy the token when they rebrand it and launch again under
Me too.
POLS. Or
Yeah, me too.
POL, I think. It's probably one of the easiest bull plays ever, honestly, when they relaunch the token. Best biz dev team in crypto.
You think?
Nobody can pump their bags like Matic biz dev, man.
Like
Look at all the partnerships they had. They came back from 30 cents and made an inexplicable move to like $1.50.
Yeah, they did.
They were one of the strongest recovering names after the crash of last summer, like without a doubt. It almost went to an all-time high, or I mean, on the log scale, it looked like it was tracking, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Like if you flipped a couple more levels up there, there was a really strong case.
You had a full 50% retracement, I think, because it was at what, $3?
Yeah, wow, look at that.
Look at that. I
Like
mean,
you flip that level, man, it's like you're back at range highs. I mean, obviously context is key, but I mean, it was outperforming everything.
My God, I can literally like visualize the trap supply on that chart. Like I can see it.
Yeah, I think it's ogre.
You think it's ogre?
I think it's ogre, man. I think you probably come on down here.
And you say that, of course, as an impartial third party, not as somebody who's short, right?
Of course. It's going to be one of those. It's going to be a straight flush.
I do kind of view this as like, as long as equities don't just completely fall off a cliff over the next few months, I do view this as kind of like the last chance to, if you have cash just sitting around, to try to amplify it, like the size of it, like through on chain or, through shorts. Pick your poison. But in my opinion, this is the last chance you're going to have through the market, in my opinion, to grow your bankroll before the bull run. If my bias is correct, that it is going to be a shorter cycle, in the sense that we'll top sooner. And one of the things I told, Tucker as well was, and this isn't like my idea. And let me preface this by saying that it's basically like kind of a ripoff of DGen Spartan's idea, who, if you don't follow him, he's fantastic follow. You absolutely should. He was basically saying we get a top that's much shallower than people expect, and everybody spends the entire way down just waiting for like the next leg of the bull run that never comes.
Did he give any levels to where you think that might be? Would it be like 80K or something
I
like
don't
that?
think he gave a number, but my quant says about 80K and about 7 to 8K on ETH, which is what I was thinking too.
That would make a lot of
the
sense.
1.618 fib extension from 30 to 60K range.
It would make a lot of sense. I think it makes sense that on the next push up, 100K gets front run and everybody's just left again wearing their Pompliano 100K Bitcoin hats, disappointed. I mean, I think we'll get it eventually. Like, I really do, but I could see for sure a scenario like you're talking about, Tommy.
Can you imagine though the pain of making a new all-time high and then going back to the low?
Oh God, like the low? You're talking like
Yes. It was the S.
Yeah, like when
It
I'm
was-
talking
it
about
was this.
stocks from the 60s and the 80s, they did that. They made an all-time high twice and then made a new low twice after the initial all-time high. So
Yeah, if we just did that.
yeah,
So where would we be in this? I was trying to decipher that the other day. Like,
we are within the shoulder of a little bit higher up than when your mouse is.
this way?
A little
Or
bit
this
higher.
way?
A little bit higher to the right.
To the right. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
so that we're
here.
on the second pump right now of like what I consider, like I view this period in equities to be viewed as like, this was probably the greatest distribution in American history, because you saw, I mean that, I'm dead serious. You saw assets transfer from people who were born in the early 1900s, the World War babies, the Roaring 20s babies. You saw them start to, distribute their assets to baby boomers, to, the next generation of Americans in this decade-long distribution. And I think the demographics of what we could potentially be seeing in the 2020s are fairly similar, right? We're seeing a massive like generational wealth transfer from baby boomers into the hands of Zoomers, millennials, Gen Xers. I don't know. It feels kind of similar to me in that regard. So maybe it plays out relatively similar, even though it looks just disgusting.
it's really interesting.
You would say that this is our 16K bottom right now?
Yes. I don't know how Bitcoin moves in unison with a pattern like that, because there's no precedent for it. But
Yeah.
I think the first high that first drive was 2021.
Goodness.
We're in the
gracious.
second right now.
Goodness gracious. Wait, have you tried the fractaling with it yet?
Oh yeah, no, I have it overlaid on the S&P. I can send it to you after the I think I have like 2 different ones for it. So
Do you want to share it, or is it just too much alpha for the stream?
probably too much alpha for the stream. I'm gonna save it for the Giga Chads for now.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good.
With that said, I think it's probably time to wrap up the stream. We've been going for about 75 minutes so far. So Tommy, if you want to take us out, man, I think it's time.
Heck yeah, man. We did a ton of dubious speculating on today's show. I hope y'all enjoyed it. It's always fun to look forward at an asset class that we're all really passionate about, right? I mean, like, we joke about being bearish on some of these altcoins because it's fun, but you know, there's nothing that I would love more than to be right on the potential that, you know, maybe this is in fact, you know, we're viewing it through the wrong lens of double top when in fact maybe it's a bull run. But I also don't like being bullish at locations that I feel like locally are probably tops. So I am gonna end with that caveat. But we really appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. We will be back tomorrow, of course. Thank you for spending your Monday morning with us. If you really enjoyed the content today, reminder that we do have some new YouTube subscriptions that you can sign up for. In addition to just, you know, subscribing at our channel and liking our videos, you can become a YouTube member. We have 2 new services for that, and we also have some new premium, or not some new, but we do have existing premium services. If you really enjoyed the content, you want, you know, maybe a more intimate look at kind of how, not just how we're viewing the market, but how we're viewing these cycles on a higher time frame, right? Because that's part of the equation too. We have links to those in the description of this YouTube video, as well as the link tree of our Twitter bio. But that wraps up today's episode of Market Check, guys. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. Giga Chads, we will see you at the closing bell, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.